Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I am your host, Alex Martinez, and today I'm really excited. I have Joshua Janis on the podcast. He is a black belt under John Friedman. He is the owner of White Lotus Jiu Jitsu. He is also an owner of another company called My Odyssey, and I want to dig into that right away. Joshua, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Tell me about White Odyssey, or My Odyssey, rather. I kind of mixed up your two companies. My
Yeah,
Odyssey. What is that about? You said it's about communication development. What does that mean?
yeah. So the majority of my business personally is with other businesses. So uh, as simple as, have you ever had a bad boss, Alex?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've had a bad boss, most of
Yeah.
the time he's a bad boss because he doesn't communicate very well. Like he may get angry at you, or he may not tell you everything that you need to know to be successful. Who manages that person? How do you, let's say that's a relative VP of sales for a bigger company. Who is the person that is like, hey, they might talk to HR, they might talk to the CEO, or whatever the case may be, but who comes in there and really coaches them through some of the challenges that they may have? That's
Mm,
an example of what I'll do. Communication strategy and development. So that's the majority of stuff for me personally, but then I have some coaches that work underneath me, and I still do take on personal clients, again, with communication,
yeah.
meaning, most of the challenges that you face in your life are probably communication. I don't want to say, you particularly, considering you're a host of a good podcast, but uh, in general, most of the fights that we may have with our significant other, with our kids, whatever it happens to be, normally communication, whether it be interpersonal or intrapersonal communication. So I can help you get through some of those challenges as well. And how do we, instead of just talking through it, I hold you accountable, and we have different programming that we can put you on that gets you on the right path to build habits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So is it is it more of like giving the right tools to handle the right situation, basically, whether it's like a job interview or like you said, something with your spouse or something with a bad boss or a coworker or something like that?
yeah, absolutely. So we work through why things happen, then we give you the tools, then we hold you accountable, and then we work through the challenges that you have through the process.
Hmm. Well, what if the so I'm just kind of digging into my own brain here.
Please.
What if that what if the issue is like internal? Like you don't have like someone doesn't have the courage to confront a bad boss or an unruly coworker, somebody who's in the next cubicle that plays their music too loud. Anything like that.
Is
Like
that an
what if it's
office space reference?
yeah,
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are exactly things that we'll work with. A lot of times the business will hire me to come in and deal with it. Most of the time it is maybe C-suite or like VP type people. But
Yeah.
for people that do have challenges like that, that's absolutely common. And those are communication issues, right? Like
Mm.
having the courage to do something, we'll work through, well, why don't you? What's the worst thing that can happen? Those are kind of easier questions, but I'll put you on a path for something that you can do daily, like
Yeah.
just one thing that you can do daily to get better at confronting that person in the cubicle next to you that plays, their rap music too loud,
Mm.
right? So there's something that you can do daily to start working towards being a better communicator or a better anything.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's what I'll supply. And again, accountability is a really big piece of what we do as well.
Okay. And how does that work? Are you doing a lot of remote work or do you have a brick and mortar? Or how does that work?
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. The vast majority of my time is spent on phone calls
Yeah.
or Zooms like this or
Yeah.
whatever, which is great for my jiu-jitsu career because I also travel for BJJ Globetrotters, and I think I'm doing 5 Globetrotter camps, and so far one other camp around the world this
Wow.
year.
Wow.
So I can still, sometimes the time zones, like when I'm in Estonia as an example, it's 8-hour difference. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's a little bit of a problem, but realistically, it's still pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you did me a big favor there because big joke on this podcast is I don't know how to segue. So,
Yeah.
so you gave me a perfect segue to, I noticed on your social media, you talk a lot about BJJ or the Globe. Is it BJJ Globetrotters? Is that what it is?
So, yep, that's one of the
Okay.
organizations.
Yeah, so I know they come to Arizona. I know Jay Pages is a big. I'm assuming he's a partner of some sort because he has a giant facility. He helps you guys out. I think it's awesome.
Well, let me quick
Go ahead.
stop right there before, just so everybody understands. So Christian, who now resides at St. Bart's, is the owner of BJJ Globetrotters, and he's created these kind of like these relationships. And Jay is just a straight up wonderful dude
Yeah,
that hosts us every year. And I mean, the last couple, it's been a couple per year over in what city is that in? Is that
it's in Phoenix. It's Phoenix-ish, kind of Tempe, Chandler-ish kind
Tempe?
of area. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the perfect little spot that he's got. I love Jay, so
Yeah,
it's a great location.
yeah. So he's got a partnership, and then I coach with the organization, meaning like. Luckily, I think I do a pretty good job with the coaching, and therefore I get to go where I want to go. And it is a little like I have to worry about my schedule because this isn't my career, right? So I have to like taking 5 weeks off, and these are weeks off because I'll be in Estonia, Poland, St. Bart's, Arizona, Maine.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it is a significant chunk of time, but man, it's so cool to spend that amount of time with people for literally a week. You get to know them on more of an in-depth level. And what Globetrotters does better than any other camp is we're all like, I hate to say it like this, but we're all cool dudes. We don't like have egos where we're like, oh, we teach a class and then we, sit off on our own and only talk to like two other, pro black belts or something.
Yeah.
Like we like to hang out with everybody, and it's about the relationships.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's just something that I learned about jujitsu, and in the going on 11 years that I've been doing it is it's very rare that you can share the mats with the people that are on the next level, right? Being in the bullpen, I remember as a blue belt with Leandra Lowe, and I'm sitting there like, I can't believe I'm standing next to this dude. This is crazy, And
Yeah.
so when you have somebody like yourself, teaching a room full of, I mean, how many people do you typically get in a camp?
Well, St. Bart's, the average class size will probably be about 30 to 40, maybe
Wow.
30.
Yeah.
That's the smallest camp. And then in Heidelberg, I taught a class with like 250 people.
Yeah, yeah. So you have
Like a
250.
speaking engagement.
That's insane, man. That's a lot of people. And they're all, I'm sure the majority, a lot of them are coming up to you and asking like little questions afterwards, and you're giving them a piece of your time, and that's really cool. Where else can you do that? You get a keynote speaker at like a TED Talk, they go off the stage and you never see them again.
Yes.
Right. And you get to see them on if you watch the video again, but you don't get any time in the individual time to ask it like a little specific question that you may be able to answer. I think that's great.
Yeah, and they do a great job of that, and the culture of the camps are second to none. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend if you get an opportunity, like you're right there in Arizona, so you should come in by Jay. And
I've squandered so many opportunities to train with you guys. I've just and I say that sincerely. Like I look back, I see the videos and I see the social media stuff, and I'm like, I can't believe you had all these, this knowledge in one room. And I don't know what I was doing. I'm sure it was something non-productive that I could have been there. But how did that start? How did Globetrotters get started?
well, Christian went on. Actually, he has a book about it, which I highly recommend. But he went on a worldwide journey where all he did was couch surf and train jiu-jitsu when he was a brown belt. And from there, he came up with the idea. There's a really cool. I was actually at the premiere of it. There's a really cool YouTube like movie
Mm.
that one of the fellow instructors and him put together as well. That it just gives you the feel and the story. So I would go check that out. But Christian's a really interesting, good dude.
Yeah, yeah. And how has that experience with Globetrotters influenced your school, White Lotus Jiu Jitsu?
1,000%.
Yeah.
I mean, the school that I came up with, that I was with for 15 plus years is, let's say, in the instruction more traditional. We'll say
Mm.
that, right?
Mhm, mhm.
With Globetrotters, depending on the camp, I have 20 other instructors coming from 20 other backgrounds, especially when I'm in Europe. That's way different.
Yeah.
And so I get to see all sorts of different material, different ways of presenting the material, weird material,
Yeah. Yeah.
what I consider weird. And so that's all gone into shaping the stuff that I like, and then how I am able to communicate that. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to your start in jiu-jitsu. This is always something that I ask every guest, because even though the stories are they have a lot in common, they're all really unique. So what is unique about your story and your start?
well, I was in college. I was 17 years old, and I had a guy across the hall who his best friend was training MMA. He was either 7-0 or 7-1 professional fighter that was from Illinois, but coming up and training with us, training at, well, let me start this. A guy named Dave Strasser, who fought in like UFC -5. I don't know, one of the
Right.
one of the first
Early,
ones. I think it was like 12 or something.
Yeah.
But Dave Strasser had a school in Kenosha. I went to the University of Wisconsin Parkside, which is in Kenosha, which is like 45 minutes south of Milwaukee, which is where I'm located now.
Yeah.
And so I went there, guy across the hall, he's like, you should come in and try this. And, you know, I walked in, and it was BJJ, but it was MMA. I mean, that's what
Gotcha.
it was.
Yeah.
That was it. So like, I remember, I'll tell you the story, and I do some speaking, and I always tell this story because it's so impactful for me. The first time that I put on boxing gloves to actual box, and I was going against this guy who I thought was old, like, you know, he was probably 35, right? Younger than I am now, right?
Yeah.
But like some old buddy duddy, and you know, like I said, you know, young guy, and we put on our boxing gloves and we're sparring, and like he catches me, you know, and I'm like, well, that motherfucker, you know, go back, and we're sparring again, and then he catches me harder, he spins me around, I almost drop.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh shit. And so like, you know, I'm sure you've been punched in the face before, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the first time that it happens, if you don't know how to deal with it, I guess you could have one or two ways, right? You could fight or flight.
Yep.
And I just got super angry. And I mean, like, I'm going to kill this guy, which isn't, I mean, not, it's awful to think about, but so then I wind up like I'm a cartoon character, right? Like I'm like this, you know, and I'm going to knock this guy's block off. Well, obviously that didn't happen. And I don't know if you ever done any striking.
Very little, long time ago. Yeah.
You'll still get this.
Yeah.
When you throw a haymaker and miss, and you throw your weight into it, it creates an angle for the other gentleman to touch you for that.
Oh yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. I mean, he just went, pop. And I right then, he dropped me to a knee. Right then and there, I realized that I can't fight with anger, and then I may have an anger problem. Like, so then I was looking at anger in my life in general.
Yeah.
I learned so much from that one punch of like, I think that was probably my second or third day in this mixed martial arts gym.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a small little gym. I was there for about 7 or 8 months probably.
Okay.
And then just dropped it for no reason, only to pick it up like 3.5 years later.
Oh, really? So you had a gap.
Oh yeah,
that's a pretty good gap.
Yeah.
So were you waiting to graduate college, and you know, and then
just lazy?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Completely lazy.
So in that period of time, I mean, were you still being in any kind of physical activity? Did you get heavy and decide, hey, I want to come back because I'm heavy, or anything like that?
No, I can't tell you why. You know, I think part of it is lazy. I mean, I like to play a lot of basketball, and you know, I thought there was a chance that maybe I could walk on the team there, or you know, whatever. And I did a lot of like lifting weights.
Yeah.
But I just stopped training.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You know, that's one of my regrets in life is why. You know, that was back in 2000 that I started.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, like, you know, that would have been pretty cool.
That would have been pretty cool. Yeah. 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 I've run into people. I tell people this story. I was in the Navy, and this is 1990. Had to be 91 because I had just joined. I was in my what they call A school, so I was learning my trade. And there was I was in a room of four of us were in a room, and 2 of the 4 were wrestlers. And they're like, hey, there's a wrestling mat at the gym. Do you want to come wrestle? I'm like, yeah, okay. I've never wrestled a day in my life.
Yeah.
And there was a guy from, from the school, and he was in another barracks or whatever. He met us there, and we were wrestling. And I remember no one wanted to wrestle him because he would hurt your arms. And I was like, now I think about it, I was like, huh, that might have been my first exposure to jujitsu. You know what I mean? He was armbarring people. That's why no one wanted to wrestle with him. And the more aggressive they got, the easier it was for him to armbar them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So, I mean, I think about, going back then, I'm like, wow, that would have been pretty cool had I just asked a few questions.
Yeah. It's so weird, but
Yeah.
it comes to you when it's supposed to, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And when did you, obviously you trained for 7 months, you had a little bit of a gap, so you had pretty good exposure to jiu-jitsu. When did it grab you? When was it like, this is what I want to do?
Well, it grabbed me because, again, in my in my wise young youth, I thought, well, I transferred schools to University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and they offered a program, you're not going to believe this, where you could get a credit for training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
No way.
Yeah. So I was like, definitely got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then that happened in, I think, like 2004.
Okay.
And then, so I did that at the only jiu-jitsu school in Milwaukee that had a black belt. So for a long time, there was only Henry Matamoros. And so I trained there, went through 2 semesters there, and then did maybe a year after that where I was, not. One of the students there had just moved back from Japan. He was a military guy, just moved back from Japan, brown belt. And he was just the scariest motherfucker. Can I swear?
Yeah, absolutely. No, please. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I was so scared by this dude, he would just murk everybody.
Wow.
And then for whatever reason, I guess I got a little bit of a knee injury, and then I kind of quit Henry's, and there's this gap. And randomly, I'm on the east side of Milwaukee, and I run into this guy, this scary dude at a Kinko's, right?
Yeah.
And he's this one scary dude is with this other scary dude, Poochie. And I'm like, oh man, and I almost didn't say anything, but then I said hi, whatever. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I opened up my own gym here called Nutriground. You want to come in? And I was like, yeah, man, kind of my bunghole is twitching. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that, I was with John and since 2007.
That's awesome. That's
maybe,
so cool.
Maybe even 2000 into 2000, somewhere in there.
Yeah. It's one thing when you don't know what to expect when you walk into a jiu-jitsu academy and you're like getting worked and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awful. It's quite another thing when you have a little bit of a layoff and you're going to go back because you know exactly what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so tough, man. But what was it about that experience with that group of people that pulled you in? And we talk about chasing that feeling. You know what I mean? I've been chasing this feeling, I don't know, every day, because it's that feeling when you first walk into the first jiu-jitsu academy, you're like kind of side-eyeing, like, okay, I'm doing this. And then it's almost the same feeling when you walk on the mats as a white belt. And then when you get your black belt tied on your waist, it's like, I'm chasing that feeling every day. What was it? At what point, what's that feeling like for you? What does that feel like for you?
Let me put some thought into this.
Okay.
I don't know that I experience it in the same way as maybe you just suggested. What keeps me going and what I try to do at White Lotus in general is create a culture of friends, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not coming to necessarily train jiu-jitsu. I'm coming to hang out with my friends who all happen to like jiu-jitsu and who all are jiu-jitsu nerds.
Yeah.
And so I can come here and talk for hours, don't get me started on guillotines, right? Like I can talk for hours about little intricate details with these same nerds that happen to also be my friends.
Yeah.
And so that's really what, now what I'm chasing it. Like I'm pretty good at jiu-jitsu, but I'm not the best, right? And so that ego is out of me where man, I hope, I hope we roll and I hope you tap me because then I'm probably going to learn something,
Yeah.
When I dropped that ego, it was a lot easier to go to class.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a new student who's starting tonight. And she's like, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, I was nervous for like the first 5 years total. Like
Yeah.
it's totally normal. And like, it was because of my ego. Like I expected that I should go in there and whoop ass,
Yeah.
and then when that didn't happen, oh, fuck, that's just
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. You know what I find, like, and you put yourself in this position quite a bit with the travels, because when you're going to Europe, when you're going to, wherever, and it's, open mat or whatever, you see somebody big and scary across the room and you're like, okay, we made eye contact. Here we go. You know what I mean? That's nerve-wracking, right? But
Yeah.
I always tell people, on the other side of that, 6-minute time clock is a friend of yours.
Ooh, that's a
You're
great
you're
way of putting it.
you're gonna make a friend, and I guarantee, in passing, like at tournaments, chaos, you just bump into each other. Oh shoot, and you get hugs and talk and catch up for a couple minutes. Oh, good to see you.
Wow.
I've made so many friends that way. It's
Yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. That's one of the things I love about jiu-jitsu. And I'm so jealous of you, putting yourself in that position over and over and over again and making those friends. That's really cool.
You know what's cool about what you just said? It reminded me of I've done some like team building exercises in the
Mm,
past, and
mm,
like the thing that I would always try to target is mutually shared experiences.
mm.
Creating some sort of mutually shared experience, hopefully that has enough difficult nature in it that people have to come together. And when
Yes.
they have that mutually shared experiences, then they're just friends and they want to work together. And that's basically what you're saying. So thank you
Yeah.
for reminding me of that.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Um, let's talk a little bit about competition.
Okay.
Okay. Did you ever get the competition bug where you were just competing like all the time, or are you kind of like were you specific in your competitions, or did you ever compete? How did that work for you?
Yeah, so I have competed at every belt except for black belt. Um, but I competed probably, I don't know, dozen to 15 times, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Um, it- and I would do it. So I would do it when I was fearful of it. Like,
Mm,
if I did two in a row, then I wouldn't be fearful of it much anymore, and then I'd forget,
yeah.
and then I'd go do it again. And that to me was the biggest thing from competition. I did okay. Um, won some, lost some type of thing.
Yep. Yep.
But that was never. It was always the scariest leading up to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that was what I needed help on.
Yeah. I think I need to, I need therapy for several reasons, but I really like to find out where my drive comes from. I can never just do something. If you and I start playing checkers and I lost, I would start studying checkers until I figured out. And I'm serious. I don't know why it is,
Yeah.
but I'm 50 years old and I still have that competitive bug in me. But I enjoy rolling with people that, you know, roll hard but play. It's a playful roll hard. You know what I mean? And I
Yes.
find, like, when you start getting in the up, I call it the upper masters level, right? It becomes more of like yes, we do try to, strangle each other on the mat, but really, like, it's not personal. It's more like, it's hard to describe. We're more competing against ourselves at this point. Does that
I
make
think
sense?
there's two things there. First, you kind of tackled like what is it about you that like you would just start studying.
Mm,
And let me ask you a question, just out of curiosity.
sure.
Uh, is Are you ever satisfied with progress?
No.
Yeah. So
No.
if you can learn, and this is just again kind of my career.
Yeah.
I hear everybody's challenges at work or personally. Um, if you can learn how to be excited genuinely about milestones, no matter what it is,
Mm,
it doesn't matter, like if it's small, big, whatever, if you can learn to be satisfied with those milestones and keep that same drive, life is just one beautiful pearl.
all right. I'm gonna write that down because I'm gonna forget.
Yes.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. That's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about being an entrepreneur and having the travel schedule that you have. You have two businesses basically. How do you balance? I mean, I'm sure you have a team assembled, right? But how do you balance managing that team and still being able to be in the moment whenever you're in
Mm.
wherever you are in the world.
So my mantra for life, so not my mission statement, but my mantra is to live on the frequency of love. So like when I
Mm.
pull out my beads, and if anybody that's done a camp with me, I'll pull out the mala and say that mantra 108 times.
Wow.
And so I, whenever I'm at camps, that's actually my opportunity to really sink into that. Whereas I get caught up like everybody else in home life. Like when I say home life, I mean everything that's going on at home.
Yeah.
So camps are actually, I mean, they truly are like a mental vacation for me.
Mm.
Excuse
Mm.
me. Um, yeah, I think that answers your question.
No, that's great. That's great. Um, so one thing I definitely want to dig into real quick, and this is kind of off subject, but someone told me that you were raising awareness for homelessness in Milwaukee by becoming homeless for a
Yeah.
number of days. Tell me about that, dude, because when I heard that story, I was like, okay, whatever it takes, I'm gonna get this guy on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. That was powerful actually. Um, so yeah, I do things to challenge myself. I don't want to become like, I want to be comfortable most of the time.
Hmm.
But I also want to appreciate that comfortability. I found myself judging homeless people, quite frankly. Um, that maybe not as simplistic as get a job, you bum,
Hmm.
but like still judging, right? And like, so I was like, well, let's see, how hard it can be. And like, I'm used to, it was only 48 hours. I could fast for 48 hours and be completely fine.
Yeah.
And, and I do, like, so in my head, I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? Little did I know that it's really mentally challenging to have society as a whole not give two fucks.
Wow.
And when I say not give two fucks, it's like not acknowledge that you're a human being.
Hmm.
So I didn't ever expect anybody to give any money because like we went out there, we had nothing. We begged for anything that we could get. I did it with a former training partner, actually, Bobby Janis, who lives in Nashville now. I think it's Nashville. Yeah. So you had two guys that trained that you would think would be relatively safe. Not the case. I felt not safe quite frequently.
Yeah.
We were awful at begging for money. I still spoke well. It's not like I got drunk and was.
Hmm.
I tried everything that I knew, psychological tricks. I just people just didn't want to pay attention to me.
Wow. Wow.
They were,
Did you immerse yourself in that like I guess community where there were other people that you interacted with and
yeah,
the homeless? Yeah.
yeah. Actually, there's a blog on my site that people can go read on the Gentle Art Lifestyle site. So, Gentle Art Lifestyle is kind of like the parent company of the jiu-jitsu stuff that I do. So I put on 2 camps a year here in Milwaukee. I do coaching for people that don't have coaches. So I hold them accountable and give them a pathway forward. Let's say you're a purple belt that runs a school and you don't have a pathway forward.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
do that. White Lotus, obviously. And then, so I do have blogs on that site. And I think they're on the My Odyssey site too. I got to make sure that they're live on the Gentle Art Lifestyle, but I'll do
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I'll do that shortly. But there's a pretty long blog about it that really details like some of the ups and downs of the experience. I mean, we tracked where we walked later after. It was like 32 miles that we walked in 48 hours.
Wow.
The sleep we got was shit.
Yeah.
The food we got was shit. We ended up like the people who helped us, we kind of were able to track down because we got like names and but okay, well this, and then we ended up paying that. Like, so one guy bought us McDonald's. We gave him $100
Oh, that's
after.
cool. Yeah.
One chick gave us a blanket. She was going to Goodwill. We think things are cheap at Goodwill, but a blanket was $8.
Mm.
Fuck, do you get $8 from?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, man. Wow.
uh, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
It was a very. I have a lot more respect, and I'm sorry to answer your question. We found a camp that lived under a bridge that had like 15 guys,
Wow.
and most of them spoke Spanish. Some of them spoke English, and some of them were just there. Like they had like full-time jobs. That's just what they chose to do.
Really?
Yeah, fascinating. Like you think like there was a couple people that we met. So we walked along like like the train tracks, which harbor a lot of homeless people.
Yeah.
There's like a river that runs through, like parks. Like there's a lot of different places where like home, if you really want to look, then you
Yeah.
can find them.
Yeah.
So we did that, and like we ran into people, and some of them you could tell had pretty sick mental illness.
Sure.
Some of them were
Yeah.
just people. They're just like,
Yeah.
actually, the majority of them were just people, and like that's just how they lived.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Wow. That is fascinating, man. And what about was it? Well, I mean, I hate that my mind went there, but it went there. What about the drug use amongst the homeless? Did you notice a lot of that, or was it kind of like not really a thing?
Well, I didn't notice it. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, it was 48 hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know how open, is that group just going to be, just doing meth when we walk down and just be okay? You know what I mean? Like, I doubt it, but like that group in particular didn't look like they were on drugs. Like, in fact, they had like a little garden going, and like this one dude that was showing us around was so proud of his garden. It was pretty cool.
That's cool. Was it like a community garden, or was it just like his thing? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, their community little garden, but it seemed like he was,
He was the
the
guy.
gatekeeper to that.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the what did that experience do for you personally? Doing just spending 48 hours that way?
Well, first of all, it was very difficult. So,
Yeah.
are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
I've heard it. I'm not entirely familiar with it.
Okay, so the general is like picture a pyramid, right? And the base of the pyramid is your the things that you need, like air, food,
Mm.
you know. Then the next sliver of it is like security,
Yeah.
right? A
Shelter of some
place to
sort.
sleep, shelter, exactly.
Yeah.
And then like the next is like human interaction and whatever. So, well, I I'm not, again, I don't want, I'm just being clear. I'm not a dummy.
Hmm.
I've done some things in my life that I can be proud of.
Yeah.
And I felt in that 48 hours the stress that it would be to get out of the base of that pyramid and start going up.
Wow.
So I like climbing that ladder would be difficult because I was always concerned about my safety, always concerned about somebody kicking us out of where we were. We ended up having to break into a couple things to get out of the wind because, of course, the weekend we picked was freezing cold.
Right.
Uh, and so, like, we're literally breaking into shit. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Wow. Wow.
so yeah, it was really powerful, man. It was really
Yeah.
powerful. One of the most powerful things I've ever done. And other people are like, well, I would do that or whatever. And just if you happen to do something like that, be careful because
Yeah.
there is danger to it. And
Yeah.
like there was one group of four guys, like we were just walking down the street in a decent-ish neighborhood, and these guys yelled like, "We're gonna fuck you up," to me in this for no reason. I mean, we look homeless, we
Yeah.
certainly did, but like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And like
maybe because nobody would care, right? I mean,
maybe.
yeah. Wow, man. Yeah, I had a guy I know out here. He's kind of like a friend of a friend. He was doing like burritos for the homeless for a while,
Yeah.
and he could just wake up on a Sunday morning and just whip up a bunch of burritos and ride a bike or drive his car and hand them out. And I remember someone told me, I don't know exactly how this happened, but someone from the city was looking to shut him down because he was handing out food and they didn't know what was in it. So they prefer that they go to like, kitchens or whatever, which is cool. But man, he's actually taking steps to help his community and it's getting shut down. Like, I don't know, man.
You want to hear the thing that pissed me off the most?
Mm.
Although, like, the society thing was sad, but what pissed me off the most is I went to a grocery store around here, and it was like, I was like, hey, and it was right at their closing time. Like, hey, is there any like bread or anything that we could get? Like anything that's going bad, any produce that's like you got to take off the shelf. They're
Yeah.
like, we can't give you anything.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, what do you do with it? To their point, they're honest. We have a trash compactor in the back. We can't just have homeless people coming here thinking that they could get free food every night.
Wow. Wow, man. That's
Same,
yeah.
same thing with what's that pizza place we went to? It was like the hot and ready, gosh, it's a national chain, so you would know it. It's Little Caesars.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
where they had like the $5 pizza,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Man, we went there. Same thing. Like we're like, hey, it's 8:57. You close at 9. I see there's 6 pizzas there that
Yeah.
are made, ready to go. Can we get one? Well, I'm sorry, we're home. Like we just don't have any money. No. So that time, then we waited for them to leave till like 9:30, and then we went to their dumpster and we dumpster dived the pizzas. They were still in the box, or
Oh, good. Yeah.
that was dinner and breakfast. It was
Wow.
great.
Wow, man. That's wild. That's
Yeah.
wild, man. Yeah, as soon as I heard that story, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a fun podcast.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing. What my mind again. What
Please.
what was the catalyst for that? Why did you decide to do that?
My judgment of homeless people.
Just a judgment of it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything that I find scary, or like or I find that I'm doing in a way that I prefer not to, then I like really lean into it.
Yeah.
Like you know, I did 24 hours in solitary confinement, where my bathroom was just completely dark, just 24 hours, nothing, just nothing. Um, let's see, I just do weird stuff. I do cold plunges all the time, like I'm at Globetrotter camps and at my camps.
Mhm.
We do Wim Hof breathing,
Yeah.
Wim Hof experience. So we do the breathing, learn the breathing, and then like in camp next week here in Milwaukee, we're going to go into Lake Michigan, which, as you can imagine, would be very cold.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't.
We build a big bonfire and do that. And I just think it's really important to challenge these narratives that we just believe.
Yeah.
Well, those people are lazy. Are they? I don't know. There's a chance that I found out. Yeah, they're just lazy.
Well, you walked 32 miles in 48 hours to collect food. That's not lazy, dude.
Dude, it was afterwards. I was really tired because you're just not getting good sleep either.
Yeah.
You
Wow.
know?
Yeah. When you spent 24 hours in basically solitary confinement, right?
Yeah.
Was it in a dark room? And where did your mind go in those 24 hours?
Yeah, it was a dark room. It was a bathroom that was like no windows, like it was in kind of the center of the condo.
Mhm.
And it was really annoying because I couldn't write anything down, because like
Yeah.
your mind then has the ability to like open up to all these things. So you get these like cool thoughts, and
Mm.
then you're like, shit, like you had to write down earlier.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna fucking forget this. So then I did think about bringing a pen and paper, but you can't really see what you're writing.
Yeah.
So like I could make it out after, but it was like chicken scratch, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of the questions that I had for you are being answered just by what we're talking about, because I noticed like your social media presence is very matter of fact. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we're doing. There is no fluff in your social media. I love it, by the way. I didn't find you on Instagram, by the way. I found you on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's like by design, but
shadow band, I don't know.
maybe. I don't know. But what I noticed was like, everything that you put out there is on, your camps, your school, your business, and there's no fluff to it. I really enjoyed, doing that, but it makes a lot of sense just talking to you why your social media is that way. There's no flex, so to speak.
Well,
right?
that's funny. That is, gosh, I don't know how to feel about that. And here's why: because I don't think that I have any answer to anything. I have suggestions and I have perspective. I don't know that I know anything.
Yeah.
So like, I don't want to come off like I'm like a hard flex. Like, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Like I'm gonna ponder that.
That's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, I had a question for you. I lost it. But
You think about that, but I want to say my favorite one that I did, like, challenge, was 10 days. I don't know why this is, but 2.4 miles away from my house, there is a well that runs water constantly. Okay. And so I went 10 days with only being able to use that water. So that meant washing geese, that meant drinking, that meant anything. I could only use the water that I did. So I basically had to go and carry a couple gallons of water every day. And so 2.4 there, 2.4 back. And that was really quite interesting.
What brought that about? Why did was it just a challenge that you wanted to see if you could?
People, like, I didn't understand how people could live like that. Like just my simplistic mind, like, so many, you see people carrying water on their head, like, oh, 10-year-old daughter had to go. You're like, what? She had to walk 5 miles. And then I actually, when I did it, I'm like, man, that sucks. We're so blessed to have this water that
Yeah.
goes
Yeah.
on. You know, we can sit in the shower for 20 minutes if we want, off.
Yeah. I mean, our toilet water is better than a lot of the, waters that people use around the world. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, it's, I think, gosh, what was it? It was some kind of number that someone put out, and they said it was in the hundreds of thousands, by the way, of hours that people around the world spend getting water.
Oh, I
It was
bet.
in the hundreds of thousands a day. I mean, collectively, right? And I think, you just that just the fact that you acknowledge that and you're like, okay, let's see what this is like, right?
Yeah.
It definitely change. I'm confident it changed your perspective on a lot of different things.
And that's why when you say I don't have any flex, I'm like, man, I try to do everything to have flex.
That must be the flex, though. That's the flex, though. That's really good, though. Yeah, yeah.
I try to do everything where it's like, I just don't know. Let's find out.
I shouldn't say that there's no flex there. It's not superficial. You know what I mean? You're not standing next to a car that you don't own.
Oh,
I mean, you're not saying, you're not saying like whatever, all that other crap that comes with it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, definitely not doing that.
Yeah. So no, that's cool. So let's talk about your videos on BJJ Fanatics. You've got a few videos and you've got one coming up. Just talk about those. I really want to learn what the process is. Like, is it something that you pitch to the Fanatics and you're like, hey, I want to try this, or is it something that they approve? I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, to be honest with you. Like, you just apply, and I applied with one of my Globetrotter camps. So like, you could go and see a lot of the Globetrotter camps that I've done. Sometimes I'll do repeat, so like they don't post repeat ones, but so I just applied with that, and then I suggested, so like, there's a couple things in jiu-jitsu that I feel like I know, like how deep the ocean goes. And I know that that's the way for everything. By the way, we have a kids class called City Champs that I'm on board for, that we do free martial arts classes for kids.
Wow.
That just started. So if you hear kids in the background, I apologize.
No worries. No worries.
So anyway, where was I going with that?
We were talking about BJJ Fanatics, the process.
Yeah. So it just applied. I used that video. They said, yeah. I said, I'd like to do guillotine. And we were just going to do one video. And the video would have been like 5.5 hours long on just the guillotine.
Wow.
And the way I teach the guillotine is very different than most people. So I think that's, pretty cool. Compression, not extension. So like, in none of the guillotines and no guillotine setup are we ever trying to like rip their head off like a dandelion, right? We're trying to kink the hose as opposed to extend the neck. Anyway, I digress. So, and then we ended up breaking into two. So there's Guillotine Glossary version 1, volume 1, Guillotine Glossary volume 2. And the next video, they did pretty well. I mean, I'm a relatively unknown dude. Like, it's not like, I'm Marcelo Garcia or Gordon Ryan, right? But they did okay. And so I said, hey, I'd like to do another one. And especially, I'm really passionate about this. And I said, okay, what is it? And I said, painless, precise, and playful jiu-jitsu for the hobbyist. What I am now is I am a really sickly addicted hobbyist. This is my hobby, right? Like, I'm not trying to do this professionally. I'm not trying to beat Gordon Ryan, right? Like, I am doing this, and I want to do this for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
So if I train every day where I'm trying to beat you, Alex, that's not going to be good for me. Yeah. That's not going to be good for either one of us, right? Like, it's going to take a wear and tear on your body.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great.
That's the idea. So I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So then I take 26 of your favorite submissions and break it down into how to do it precisely. So we have less opportunity for the other person to get hurt or for you to hurt them. How to do it. When I say painlessly, I mean, if you're doing something precisely, it shouldn't hurt in the way that sometimes submissions do.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. And playful is just, that's how I like to go about it. Because if you're playful in a role, you take in more information.
Yeah.
if you have more information, you can make better decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. And I talk to my students about making the roles playful. And that's one thing that I found when I stopped trying to win my roles, they became fun. And then fun became, I don't know, just something about being able to process information when your mindset is not, I'm going to kill this guy. Like when you threw that haymaker, it just increases. I mean, significantly, right?
Yes.
And so, and you know, the hardest thing for me to teach is teach someone is how to flow roll.
Mm.
And I love a flow roll. I'm 50 years old, so you know I love a flow roll. But but how do you go about teaching that? How do you go about teaching someone to be playful when they roll?
Well, first of all, I have to give credit to my partner in White Lotus and my partner in life, Megan, who is the somebody at a Globetrotter camp. I don't remember who it was, but termed her the extraterrestrial space roller or something like that, because it's just so unique and she's always just moving. And
Yeah.
so I've learned so much from her. She's a 3-stripe purple belt currently.
Okay.
I've learned so much from her because before I say, okay, we're going to go from, half guard. We're going to do, this pass to this position. And from this position, I'm going to do this or this or this, whereas now I don't care. I don't care where we go. You can try to, take my back. You can try to, whatever. I'm just, wherever we go, let's have fun doing it. And
Yeah.
it's weird. So how do I teach that? At our school, she's the best. So,
Yeah.
but I just say, try to take the ego out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just move. And a lot of times, like 75% of the time, the line, like, more information leads to better decision making.
Yeah.
That makes sense to people. If you just hold somebody down, that's not a lot of great information.
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. So I just I like to close with a couple of questions. Sorry, excuse me. So my first question is I want to talk about your legacy. What would you like that to be in 100 years from now when we're both gone? How do you want people to remember you
In jiu-jitsu or life?
in life in general, just in general? What's your legacy?
Well, my current mission statement on life is to acquire wisdom and to share that wisdom with others. So I think that my legacy, if I had to choose, was that that guy was a good communicator of wisdom.
I love it. I love it. And in as far as legacy or lineage goes, what would you like your black belts, the black belts that you promote, what would you like them to have in common?
Yeah, the playfulness.
Yeah.
But I mean, playful, precise, and painless. Everybody wants to roll with those guys.
Yeah.
That's what I would like. Everybody would like to roll with those guys.
I love it. I love it. Well, is there anything else that you want to share before we call it?
Um,
Oh,
yeah,
you wanted to talk about your YouTube channel.
yes, that was it. Yeah.
Yes, let's talk about that.
I just started, kind of a YouTuber now, no big deal. But I just started doing YouTube videos. So I'm focusing on just shorts, and half of them are my Odyssey. So half of them are communication challenges where I take like when we get, I'm not gonna be able to do it now today, but tomorrow I'm going to take pieces from the State of the Union speech and have, I'm going to do 3 videos. One video is going to be proving that Biden is an excellent communicator. The second is going to be proving that Biden is an awful communicator.
Oh, okay.
And then the third one is going to be talking about perspective.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So like stuff like that. And then the jiu-jitsu videos are like, it's all over. Sometimes it's about coaching. Sometimes it's about certain moves, and it's all in short form. So like you can kind of consume it really quickly if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So yeah, the YouTube Joshua Janis, just Joshua space Janis. I somehow got that handle, which is great. And then my Instagram is Joshua J _ BJJ. And then I also do a podcast called Ham and Rolls, which is like on Spotify and stuff, where one of my clients actually, and he's like he's got more energy than a bag of cocaine. It's crazy. Um,
I love it.
not the way to say that. Sorry, Jared. But yeah, he's wild, whereas I'm a little bit more, well, this is what the science says. And so it kind of comes together kind of, it's pretty fun.
I love it.
That's Hammond rolls. I think, well, certainly next time that I'm in Arizona, we're going to have to get a roll, and we'll have to get Colin to get a roll too, because he hasn't, not like he's been at camps either.
Yeah.
His balls a little bit, right?
Yeah. He's actually, he's doing really well. He's one of my instructors now. He's doing my 10:30 a.m. mixed levels class, which is going really well. He's a good mixture of technical, smart, and there's a blend of little comedy in there. So he has a way of keeping everybody's attention. So it's really cool. But and you know what? I am going to commit to the next time you guys are in town, I will be there. One of my students, went this past this last one that you guys did, and she loved it. And she's going to go again. So yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, I think Colin, I said like she was supposed to give me a hug, or I gave her a hug to give to him, or something like that.
Yes, yeah, Caitlin, she was very excited. She bought a gi. She loved it. But what's that?
How far is your school from like Jay's?
From Jay's, I'm about a 25-minute drive, I would say, from Jay's. So not, we're on two sides of the valley, but not too far away. I would love to have you.
About you too.
Yeah, I would love to have you in there. We could get a roll in. Yeah, that would be awesome. And if I'm ever, the funny thing is, I spent some time in Milwaukee. I work for a company that was headquartered out of there. So but I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu at the time. So so anyway, our paths could have crossed sooner. But anyway, well, listen, I really appreciate you doing this, and I feel like we just scratched the surface on your story. And the more I dig in, the more I'm going to want to get you back on. So if you're in Arizona and want to come in the studio, I'd love to have you in.
Well, that'd be fun. Yeah, I'll be in Arizona in November.
Okay, yeah, let's plan for that. Is there are there any other? Well, you talked about your Instagram, all that stuff, so we're good there. Well, listen, if looking forward to meeting you in person.
I do have one more, Alex.
Yes, let's do it.
Since City Champs, the kids are having class over here. If you get a chance, go to citychamps.org and check it out. We're a nonprofit that operates on donations. We pay our coaches well. We have excellent coaches that are helping these kids with the idea of using not mixed martial arts and MMA, but a mix of martial arts we're just opening the door for these kids. And we have two places. One is here at White Lotus. The other one is at Combat Corner, which is a great brand for combat stuff.
Yeah.
And so, we have two permanent locations that we do programming all around the city of Milwaukee. And so, if it is something that you or your listeners are passionate about, it would be a cool thing to check out and donate.
Yeah, I'm down. I'll jump on that today. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Joshua, thank you so much for being on.
All right. Thank you. I really appreciate it. This is fun. Thanks, Alex.
We'll do it again. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
All right, everybody, if you love the podcast, if you got something out of this, please like and subscribe. Please leave us a what do they call that? The whatever. Please like and subscribe. Please follow us on Instagram, and we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on Google, anywhere you can find a podcast. And thank you guys.